Hi, my name is Rich Keenan, and I am an application engineer for Hydac Electronics. Today we will be discussing the HMG 4000. I will talk about its capabilities and its functions. It is the first Hydac recorder to offer a touchscreen display. The touchscreen display works similar to a touchscreen on a smartphone. You can zoom in and zoom out. You can navigate throughout the HMG by pressing on the icons similar to your smartphone. The HMG still uses the HSI sensors, which stands for Hydac Sensor Interface. This is offered for pressure, temperature, and flow. So the HMG knows if it is a 400 bar pressure transducer or a 600 liters per minute flow meter. There is no internal setup. It's similar to connecting a wireless mouse to your computer. The HMG 4000 also works with smart sensors, which are the AS1000 Aqua sensor and CS1000 contamination sensor, for example. In addition, it has the capability to connect to a CAN open or J1939 protocol and read the messages on the CAN line. For recording capability, the HMG 4000 can record up to 8 million measurement values per recording. The older HMG 3010 can only record up to 500,000 measurement values. With the 8 million measurement values per recording, this will come out to around 500 recordings that can be stored on the HMG 4000. The HMG also has the capability to transfer files to a USB stick, so you can transfer your recordings onto a thumb drive and view the recordings on your computer instead of carrying the HMG 4000 back. The HMG 4000 also has the ability to program Hydac IO-Link switches and store the program file onto the HMG. Here we have examples on how to use the touchscreen. As you can see, function is similar to a smartphone, such as tapping, dragging, zooming in, and zooming out. When you first turn on the HMG 4000, the first thing you see is the Start menu. The measured values icon would be where you would read the measurements from the sensors connected to the HMG 4000. Device setting is where you can change the language, time, and graphic setting. If you tap on further applications, you have a stopwatch function, icon to view all screenshots on the HMG, CAN tool where you can view messages on the bus or set up a Hydac CAN sensor by changing the node ID and baud rate. Programmable switches would be used for Hydac IO-Link sensors. On top of the HMG 4000, we use M12 connectors for all channels. This makes it simple for connection, as you do not have different connectors for different functions. It's all one version. For connection, you're able to choose between two types of M12 connections. You can still use the screw type version, but we also have push-pull version for quick disassemble when you are finished with the job. On the old HMG 4000, it only had 5 M12 ports and 2 channels per port. The channels on the HMG 4000 are split out, making 1 channel per port. The black ports are where you can connect HSI sensors or analog sensors. Red port is for CAN, yellow port is for IO-Link sensors, and the blue port is for frequency. For the analog ports, each channel can read up to 50 volts. It is loaded with default signals, but if there was a voltage signal or current signal not listed, you can add the signal to the HMG. In addition, the HMG can read frequencies up to 30,000 Hz. If you are not going to use the CAN port to read CAN messages, you have the option to connect more sensors to the HMG. We have HCSI sensors, which are Hydac CAN Sensor Interface, and they are available for pressure and temperature. The HCSI would be connected in a daisy chain format, and you can connect up to 28 sensors. Also for the CAN channel, if you don't use the HCSI sensors, you can connect directly to a CAN line on a machine. This could be for CAN open or J1939 protocol, and you can read up to 28 CAN messages. For connecting HYDAC IO-Link sensors, we have available pressure switches, temperature switches, level switches, oil humidity sensor, and differential sensors. Setting them up can be done with the HMG 4000, and setting can be stored in the HMG. Here we have an example on how many sensors can be connected. Some of the HYDAC smart sensors can output multiple signals through one connection, like the CS1000, which has 10 signals. Also, you have 4 virtual channels, which you can create a calculation like delta P or horsepower rating by entering a formula using the specific readings from the sensors connected to the HMG. Besides the M12 ports discussed, additional ports shown here are the USB port for connecting a thumb drive, a USB port for connecting to your laptop, and on the other side is the charging port with an LED indicator. For recording, the HMG 4000 can have a sample rate down to 0.1 millisecond. Our pressure transducers have a response time of 0.5 milliseconds, which the HMG 4000 is faster, but for a pressure transducer, this is fast compared to others available. You can also set triggers to when you want recording to take place or to capture a specific value during diagnosing. You can view the recordings in a graph or table format. For recording, you have 4 different recordings. Endless recording is when it records until you command it to stop. Single recording is where you give a specific time on how long to record. Event controlled recording is a trigger function. For example, if you are looking for a pressure spike, you can set the trigger to record at a certain pressure, like if the system is rated for 3000 psi and you want to have a trigger start when pressure goes above 3000. You can also set a pre and post trigger to view how much before and how much after you want recorded. Event log is a table format with a timestamp where certain values are captured. Here is an example of the measured value screen. You can show min-max of a sensor, a progression, and change the size of the readout. For each channel, you can view information about it by tapping on it. You can also see the range, min-max, and if the min-max was reset. Here is an example of a recording using the HMG 4000 view as a graph. During recording, you can turn off a channel to narrow down on which channel you want to monitor. The channels that have been turned off are still recording in the background, but are not displaying values. Only one y-axis is shown at a time, but to show the y-axis of another value, you can tap on each channel, and the y-axis would adjust accordingly. You can also zoom in on the y-axis while recording is active. The same would also follow for the x-axis during recording. An example of a table format is shown, and recording can be viewed scrolling up and down or left and right during recording. Since the icons are a new feature, text isn't shown. But if you tap on the icon with the 2 greater sign, the text would appear for each icon. For example, first page shows the icon and text, and then we move on to the next page, showing the text for the second page. While viewing the recording, you can activate the tracking function. This allows you to see the corresponding X and Y axis point easily and can be dragged across the graph to read a value at a different point. On top of the tracking function, you can measure the difference between the 2 values by tapping on the X-axis using 2 fingers. Also, for viewing recordings, you can zoom in diagonally compared to only changing X and Y-axis at a time. Along with the HMG 4000 is a new HMG Win software. You can review your recordings on a computer screen, and you are able to do the same function as you did on the HMG, but through the computer. You would also have the overlay function to compare the same recording to each other. For accessories, we have the plug-and-play HSI sensors. We have HSI pressure transducers that can read up to 1000 bar, which is 14,500 psi, flow meters up to 159 gallons per minute, and a temperature transducer to measure temperature up to 212 Fahrenheit. Next, I will review the HMG Win software. The HMG Win software allows you to review recordings on your computer on a larger screen. You also have the capability to control the HMG 4000 through your laptop. To connect to your HMG 4000, you will click on Device, then click Connect, and click Search Device. The software will find where the HMG 4000 is connected, and once it is found, you can click OK. After you are connected, a measurement screen will appear, and if any sensors are connected, you will see them displayed. For example, I have pressure transducers connected to the HMG 4000 for pump pressure and pressure point A. At the bottom of the measurement screen, you have the option to start a recording or change the settings. We will start with the setting menu. In the setting menu, you can change the setting for the measured value display. You have the option to adjust how fast you want to view a measurement in the display filter. You can change the size of the measurement values. You can also show a min-max value for each measurement and a bar value for each measuring range. Next, you have the analog input settings. Currently, it shows the values for two pressure transducers connected. If I click on channel A, it shows it as our plug-and-play pressure transducer labeled as HSI, and mode is set to automatic sensor detection. If I click on channel B, mode is set to manual setting for a voltage or current sensor. For this example, I have a 0 to 10 volt linear transducer with a 0 to 100 millimeter measuring range. Next, you can connect digital inputs. You can connect up to 2 digital inputs like frequency, for example. Then we move on to CAN settings. Here you can read up to 28 CAN messages, or you can use our HCSI transducers, which also 28 HCSI sensors can be connected. You can read J1939 or CAN open messages. You have the option to change the baud rate and turn on/off an internal load resistor for the CAN line. Then you have the option to add calculations. You can add up to 4 calculations such as horsepower or delta P. Also, with the HMG Win software, you can load existing setting files or save a new setting file. Setting files would be as an example shown on the measured value screen, as I have 2 sensors connected with their corresponding name. So if I were using the same template, I can load it back up and only have to connect the sensors to the HMG 4000 without re-entering all the internal values. Next, I will start a recording. For recording process, you have 4 options: single recording, endless recording, event controlled, and event log. Measurement channel settings, you can select which sensors you want to use for recording. For sampling rate is when you want a value to record it. You can choose from 0.1 millisecond to 1 hour. For maximum recording duration is how long you want the recording to take place, from 10 seconds to 28 days. You can also select where you want the files to be stored under File Settings. For this example, we will do a 15-second single recording. During recording, the measurement will be real-time values as shown. When the recording is finished, you can analyze the information you have gathered over time. You have the same options with the HMG Win compared to only using the HMG 4000. Next, I will go over the toolbar icons above. For settings, you can add another y-axis for a different sensor. For recorded data, we will give you information about the recording showing how many sensors connected to it and the type of recording taking place. You can also view the recordings in a table format. Notes. If any notes were left during recording with the HMG 4000. Comments. To store any information about the following recording. Tracking. To show the Y and X axis throughout the recording. You can also show the difference between 2 points. You can zoom in an area. And move the recording around. You also have the forward and backwards feature. And now we are at the end of my HMG Win demo. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and thank you for your attention.